Data breach is a part of your office business insurance, and what happens with the data breach is very simply this. Your office business insurance is what you probably assume it to be. That's going to cover your business personal property, your computers, your desk, your furniture, your artwork, your receivables, your files, your file cabinets, all of that. And that in and of itself is excellent. For most law firms, with the average, contents being somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, 25 to 35,000, somewhere in that range, some a little more, some a little less, that's going to be what is known as a minimum premium to the insurance companies of, say, $500 a year. But the data breach liability is now the biggest and hottest topic going, and it's been out since probably 2014 early. And what that covers is this, and the exposure is massive. If you can recall Sony getting hacked and the president of Sony and all the emails that went on, and apparently it had something to do with North Korea and they didn't like that movie, The Interview. If Sony can get hacked, if Target can get hacked, if the IRS can get hacked, you better believe you and I can get hacked in the drop of a pin. I mean, it's going to happen like that. So in a nutshell, what data breaches is this. If your computer gets hacked, which if someone wants to get inside of your computer, I don't want to hear about firewalls. We have top line all of that, but they'll be able to get in there. And you think, why would someone want to hack into my law firm? Well, the answer is very simply this, because you might be the unlucky one they target. 2, because they can. And 3, because if you collect any type of personal data, from dates of birth, names, social security numbers, credit card information, they're going to want to get into your business. Now, a lot of people think, well, that's highly unlikely and what have you. Well, I'm sure you have a smartphone. Everyone has a smartphone today. Who doesn't? In fact, I call that, one of the terms I use is what's called the distracted society, where you go to a baseball game or a basketball game, and all you do is you see people the whole time on their phone. We're going to create a generation of people with massive thumbs like biceps. They're texting, what have you. If you lose your phone, how many times have I got up to leave at a restaurant or even left the house and I'm like, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Thankfully, each and every time so far I've been able to find it. But I have many friends and colleagues and lawyers who say, I lost my freaking phone. What do I do? Well, if you don't have your phone password protected, and even if you do, if someone who's into the world of hacking, they'll be able to bust that like that. But even if you do have a password, you're in trouble. But if you don't, like I don't, because I don't want to access my phone. Every time I go to get it, I'm like that. And I have, again, as I address with my young kids, they all have passwords because everything they do is so important and so secretive, right? Well, truthfully, I've got stuff that's important, and so do you, but I'm willing to bet that you don't have a password on your phone, too. But even if you lose your phone, if you're like I am, I get my emails on my phone, I have internet sites where I've got the password saved so I don't have to put it in and strain my eyes. As I get older, my eyes get worse, and what have you. So that's one. And which one of us, again, doesn't then graduate it up to having a tablet? I've got a Surface Pro tablet. Most people have a tablet today, or even a laptop. You lose that, you're sitting in an airport and you get the free Wi-Fi. Do you realize the risk you're using when you use an airport Wi-Fi? You could be sitting next to a hacker who could get right into your system and take everything within your office. Again, names, date of birth, social security number. You will then have what is called a data breach violation. And here's where it gets ugly. You think, well, what's the risk? 1 or 2 people. Oh no, if you examine 49 of the 50 states require you to notify every past client and current client of the data breach, and to do so in writing. Now understand, if that happened to you, the cost just to do that. But if that happens to you, or if it happened to me, I'm going to be in a state of panic. I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to be son of a gun. Now what? That letter is going to be written emotionally. It's going to be written, frankly, poorly. And you're going to get into a situation where you're going to cause a runoff of your clients. Your past clients don't like you anyway, and they'll probably badmouth you, but your current clients are going to say, what in the world kind of office is Smith or Jones or Carroll running? And they'd be right. Well, the insurance company, if you have data breach protection, they have a form letter written that's very calming, very reassuring. It tells them what their options are, which will be this. 1, they will get up to 12 months of credit monitoring. So that means that they just sign up on a link and they get free 12 months of credit monitoring to make sure that they weren't at risk. And by the way, if you decide, I'm not going to write a letter, that's stupid, I don't have to do that. Yeah, you do, because if that breach is found out by your state, you are subject to a $250,000 fine. Now suddenly we're starting to talk a lot of money here. I don't know about you, but I don't have $250,000 laying around to pay a fine for some bureaucracy. That's how serious data breach has become in our society and how it can ruin people's lives, because your client, my client, for example, say they're in the process of buying a house, their credit gets ruined because someone hacked into my system or your system, and now they can't buy that house. Do you think there's going to be a problem there? We're not even talking now about the repairing of credit. What about now the damages? So they lose their dream house. They already have an offer on their house that's accepted. They knew for a fact that they were guaranteed to get approved because they've got great credit, they have strong income and all the above. Now they can't get their house until their credit is repaired in 3 years. Do you think they're going to sue you? You better believe it. One of your peers is going to sue for you being the negligent reason that their credit got ruined. Well, that also is being protected too by your insurance. The third-party damages will be protected. Your defense and any damages, ensuing damages, will be protected under your data breach. Of course, you can get different limits based on what your exposure is, but it is a tremendous and a must-have type coverage, if you will. You have to get it. And usually that endorsement on your office business insurance runs anywhere between $200 to $500 a year, which is dirt cheap. I mean, come on, folks. That's pocket change. You're talking, I hate to sound like the consummate stereotype insurance salesman. For a cup of coffee a day, you can afford it. But come on, we're talking our businesses here. Your most valuable asset, the asset that makes you have a life, that derives all of the goodness in your life. This is a society based on what your income, what you do, that pays for your children's education, your house, it pays for charity if you're a charitable sort, gives you a life per se. You can't operate in American society without money. And do you want that to go away so you could save $200 to $500 a year? And what I see, the vast majority of lawyers throughout the country don't even carry office business insurance, let alone data breach, because they have a generalist, not an expert like I am, who specializes with lawyers, who just lets it slip by. Well, they didn't want it, they didn't really seem motivated to get it. It isn't about motivation. It's about sharing the truth, as I'm doing here today, to say you have a massive exposure on your hands, that it could put you, and it will put you out of business. There's no doubt about it. So data breach right there. You don't want to deal with the disciplinary actions. You don't want to deal with the fines or any of that. And let me take it to another level. For those of you out there that like to advertise, are big-time marketers. Marketing to me is a passion. I've been nationally recognized as a top marketer, won numerous awards and what have you. And here's where it gets interesting. Marketing today, it's not just offline. I do a ton of direct mail. Why? Because mailboxes are empty. It's too expensive to direct mail. Well, that's part of it. I can tell you that's a huge winner. That's a story for another day. But I also do a ton of marketing online. If, for example, if this video had a picture of Peyton Manning behind me or LeBron James and what have you, and say it was more of an advertorial type, 90-second type video, I'm trying to promote my lawyer's professional liability niche to get you, the viewer, as a lawyer to do business with me. Well, this is a CLE class. But for example purposes, again, I've got, say it's in my office, where I do have a picture of LeBron James. Being in Ohio, huge fan, respect that young man's game, tremendous competitor, what have you. But my point is that if there is a picture of LeBron James or a fat head, one of, my size cutout, those fellows are a little, Peyton Manning a little shorter than I am, but LeBron a little taller. But if that comes in there, that could be misconstrued or misunderstood that LeBron or Peyton Manning endorses my products. And if they got wind of that, if their camp, if their representation got wind of that, at the very least, they would send me a cease and desist letter to get that video down and take their client, being Peyton Manning or LeBron James, off of my video. What that's known as is cyber liability. Now, that is at the very least. They could come right to sue and say that's a violation, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think it's called the Lanham Act, where you could mislead people to think you're endorsed by their client or a company. If I was in front of a Walmart or a Costco or something like that, or in front of a stadium, a Gillette Stadium, maybe there's the folks who own the Patriots could come out and say that that's misleading, that you could do that. Cyber liability is something that you, for those of you that are big internet advertisers and what have you, may want to look into. The average cost on that is about $1,000 a year, and it includes the data breach liability, so that $200 to $500 you take off of your business owner's office insurance policy, you could then, that would be included in that roughly $1,000 a year on the cyber liability at a limit of $1 million. So keep that in mind too. But those are two massive coverage items that are an extension, if you will, of what is known as your office business insurance. The data breach can be attached right to your business owner's policy, your office business insurance, whereas the cyber liability is a standalone policy if you have that exposure. Most lawyers don't do any advertising on the internet, or some, or whatever. Most, some, half do, half don't. Not a terrible exposure, but the data breach, every lawyer faces that, unless you collect no personal data and what have you. There are certain areas of practice, lawyers that don't do that, but almost every lawyer would need the data breach. The other thing that I see on office business insurance for lawyers is what is called hired non-owned auto insurance. And that's a technical term that you're by this time going, falling asleep there saying, what in the world, that's all I need. Well, that is very simply, I'll break that down for you. It's an endorsement that should always be written on your office business insurance. And again, 3 out of 4 times I see it, word isn't endorsed on there. And here's where you are in massive risk. You are naked like a jaybird. And who wants to be caught naked in public? Unless you're a nudist of some sort. But the point is very simply, who wants to be caught naked in public? I don't, okay? And I work out. Maybe I look good in, news, so I've been told. Well, anyway, off subject there, trying to keep it entertaining, folks. But my point is very simply this, that if you, driving your personal auto, or any of your staff, is driving on firm business, dropping off, going to the courthouse, visiting a client or something like that, the personal injury attorneys are going to be like, oh yeah, I know where he's going with this. If you get into an accident, or someone from my office, if one of my staff is running to the bank, is going to pick up supplies instead of ordering them online, going to get stamps, whatever, going to lunch for the office, anything to do with firm business, my firm, your firm, any firm, if they get into an accident, yes, their personal auto insurance will be primary, but then anything above and beyond that, if it's catastrophic in nature, will absolutely be filed against your law firm. So if you don't have this endorsement, you're cooked, you're toast, and a good personal injury lawyer is going to know that you are liable, and they're going to come after you and attach assets and what have you. So for this endorsement that runs all of $100 a year, you have to have it. Another reason why you want to have office business insurance. So that's the story on that. General liability, as we're in allergy season here. General liability is a function of that. Yes, slip and falls. These are items now that are part of the actual office business insurance policy, if you will. Can that happen? Sure, of course. But those aren't big risks. Again, people think a tornado, I'm in a high rise, what are the chances of it burning down? Those are all included too. If things are stolen, all included. But again, the two biggest functions, if you will, that come into your office business insurance, to summarize, are going to be, number one, the data breach. The data breach liability. I will stress it. You must get it. That in and of itself is why you want to get the office business insurance. Again, the minimum premium of $500, $200 to $500 for the data breach. So let's just guesstimate and say about $750 a year for a top-line policy. Included in that minimum premium is going to be part 2, the hired and non-owned. Any type of auto exposure where you, in your personal auto as the lawyer, as the owner of the firm, or any of your staff, employees, associate lawyers are out on firm business, protects your firm, you don't have to worry about it. So for $750 a year, I mean, come on, folks, less than $2 a day. Yes, the consummate stereotype, cup of coffee, whatever. Isn't that what Starbucks charges now, or someone like that? Whoever the popular coffee places are, they're all great, love them all, convenient. What a great business model. But my point is, you have to get it. So there's your story on office business insurance. We'll move on to the next subject, which is going to be the grisly gremlins and exclusions of insurance. Ooh.